The notification came through at 3:17 a.m. A soft blue glow from my phone screen spilled across the ceiling and my heart pounded in my chest. I blinked a few times to clear my vision, then reached for the phone. A message from American Express. Transaction successful, 2 business class tickets, New York to Florence, Italy, departure next Friday. Total $7,920. I nearly stopped breathing. 2 tickets? Not 1, not 3, 2. In that moment, something inside me froze. I was lying alone on the king-size bed Derek and I had bought 5 years ago, in a room he barely slept in anymore. I tapped the screen and opened the full transaction details. My throat went dry, my hands trembled so hard I almost dropped the phone. Passengers, Derek Whitman, Julia Carter. Julia Carter. That name hit me like a slap I never saw coming. She was Derek's PR consultant. The same woman who just last month had smiled at me across my own dinner table, wine glass in hand, probably flirting with my husband under the table while pretending I wasn't even there. I shot upright, no longer sleepy, no longer dazed. Only pain, humiliation, and a sharp wave of cold numbness crawling down my spine. I stepped out of bed, wrapped the blanket around myself like it could shield me from this reality. I walked barefoot downstairs, each step pounding against the freezing tile like an echo of the truth I could no longer ignore. The kitchen was silent. The ticking of the wall clock punctuated every second of a night I knew I would never forget. Florence. 10 years ago, that was where Derek knelt in Piazza della Signoria and asked me to marry him. And now? He was taking her there? Same hotel? Same journey? I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account. A few quick clicks and everything appeared under the harsh spotlight of truth. Plane tickets. A 5-star hotel in the city center. Dinner reservations. All under Derek Whitman and Julia Carter. There was nothing accidental about any of this. Every detail had been planned, every hour, every step. And yet just last night he'd hugged me goodnight. This morning he'd kissed my forehead. Said, "Board meeting today, might be home late." I didn't cry. The tears had dried up the last time I caught him lying about a last-minute work trip. Back then I told myself ridiculous things. He's just under pressure. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. I'm being paranoid. No, I wasn't paranoid. I knew exactly what I was looking at. I grabbed my phone, opened the Notes app, and typed one line. May 3, Derek and Julia, Florence, transaction confirmed. Evidence? 1. Saved it. That night, I didn't call. I didn't text. I just stood by the kitchen window, clutching a glass of cold water, staring out into the stillness of the dark, as if it might explain something. No one whispered Layla to me anymore. No arms wrapped around me while I cooked. No sense of being someone's chosen partner. Only one brutal truth remained. My husband was taking another woman to the place that once sanctified our marriage. And this time, I wouldn't stay silent. I wouldn't just watch. I was going to do something, not to hold on to him, but to pull myself out of the quicksand I had called happiness for a decade. I didn't ask him a word. I simply took screenshots, quietly compiling evidence, as if I were building a legal file, except I was both the victim and the prosecutor, preparing to flip the board. By 3 a.m. I sat alone in the living room, a yellow floor lamp casting soft light on the wedding photos on the wall. My face in those pictures? 10 years ago? Full of trust. That woman no longer existed. I opened my browser, went to Delta's website. My fingers moved without hesitation. Florence, March 17th, seat 4C. Right beside seat 4B, Derek Whitman. Windows seat 4A, Julia Carter. 3 names. 1 straight line, 1 confrontation with no exit. I wasn't going for a dramatic showdown. I would appear at the right moment, in the right place, and let them expose everything they thought I'd never know. Before dawn broke, I had completed 3 more things. First, I walked into the bank at exactly 9 a.m. that morning, using the excuse of needing funds for a personal project. I withdrew $15,000 from our joint account, just enough to avoid suspicion but enough for me to be financially autonomous. I opened a new account under only my name, with no ties to him, and requested all shared info be locked. Second, I scheduled a meeting with Teresa Connors, a college friend from Wisconsin, now an attorney at a law firm in downtown Raleigh. I said just one thing when I booked the appointment. I need advice on asset division, joint business liabilities, and possible financial misconduct. Teresa didn't ask more, just responded with one line. Wednesday, 3 p.m., bring everything. Third, I messaged my sister Becca, who works as an IT supervisor for a hotel chain. I asked if she could help me order a pen camera, one that records HD video and audio discreetly. Becca didn't question anything. She just replied with 2 words. Already done. That evening, when Derek came home, I was still cooking dinner. I wore my apron and gave him a faint smile as he walked through the door, as if everything were still normal. He kissed my forehead and talked about that endless meeting at the office. I nodded, slid the lasagna into the oven, but inside I felt completely hollow. I thought about Florence. I thought about how he would stroll with her across Ponte Vecchio, the place where he once promised to grow old with me. I thought about her lying on a 5-star hotel bed, the same one I had slept in during our honeymoon, calling it love. And I thought about myself, in that black dress he once said made it impossible to look away, sitting in seat 4C between 2 betrayers, like a living reminder. They never saw coming. The next day I walked into my lawyer's office with a folder full of documents, bank statements, company invoices, transactions, screenshots. Teresa skimmed through them without much comment, until she got to the business accounting. Then she paused. Why is there a transfer from the marketing fund to this auxiliary account? That's not a payroll account. I silently pushed another file toward her. Derek's internal financial reports. Mismatched numbers, blurred out client invoices. Teresa narrowed her eyes at me. Layla, do you realize what you've just uncovered? I nodded. It's not just a marriage anymore. This could be minor fraud if not internal laundering. I'll start preparing the divorce petition and supporting legal documents, she said. But if you want to keep this private, you'll need to stay ahead. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd managed in days. I've already booked my ticket. I'll meet them on the plane. And when we land, everything changes. That night, the pen camera was delivered. I tested it. A small blue light blinked. Clear video, crisp audio. I slipped it into my handbag, the bag that wouldn't leave my side until that flight. I didn't know what I would see on board. I didn't know how they'd react when they saw me. But one thing I knew for certain. I would never again be the woman left behind in silence. Not ever. On Monday morning, I sat alone in my tiny upstairs office, the one Derek used to call my harmless art corner. Outside, a soft drizzle pattered against the window, and the smell of coffee from the automatic machine filled the still air. I opened the old laptop he had left behind after a business trip last summer. That was when I'd started sensing something wasn't right. Clumsy lies, meetings that stretched past midnight, the blank stare he gave when I talked about our daughter or the birthday party he forgot. It was then I installed internal email tracking software, the kind marketed to parents for device monitoring. I'd told myself it was to protect the family's finances. But today I no longer needed excuses. I needed truth. I logged into the hidden inbox where the software had been forwarding his emails for months. My heart pounded like it was trying to break through my chest. I had never opened it. I'd been too afraid, not ready. But now, I was ready. A few clicks and hundreds of emails surfaced. Julia presentation slides. Recon Florence, reconfirming the itinerary. I didn't expect to miss you this much. I froze. 18 months, a year and a half. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was a long-term strategy. A second life Derek had built, while still holding me every night as if everything was fine. I kept reading. Every message, every attached photo, every line of itinerary they had quietly planned. But what chilled me most wasn't the affair. It was the wire transfer buried in a confirmation email. $2,800 from the company to an account labeled Secondary Marketing Support, recipient J. Carter Media. I clenched my jaw. Julia Carter didn't own a company. That was a shell account. And that money? It belonged to the family business, the one I co-founded with Derek back when we were 2 broke newlyweds renting a garage as our office. It didn't stop there. I found more emails. Repeated, advance payments, increasing in size month after month. First a few hundred, then thousands, and eventually a $27,000 transfer to a foreign bank with a name I didn't recognize. I felt myself go numb. I couldn't handle these numbers alone, but I knew exactly who could help me. Marcus Dunn. The company's head accountant, someone who'd been with us since day one. That afternoon, I met Marcus at a small cafe in Cary. He arrived 5 minutes late, still the same tall, quiet man who instinctively adjusted his tie before sitting down, just like always. I didn't waste time. I slid a USB across the table. These are Derek's wire transfers and internal emails. Look through it and tell me, am I crazy? Marcus didn't ask any questions. He opened his laptop, plugged in the USB, and his eyes scanned the data line by line. After 10 minutes, he looked up, voice low and rough. Layla, this is worse than I thought. Some of these transfers cross the legal threshold. There are clear signs of financial misconduct. I clenched my hands in my lap. Even though I had suspected it, hearing it aloud still felt like a blade through the place I used to call home. Marcus continued. Emotional insufficient count names, fabricating marketing invoices. If this gets investigated, Derek could lose everything. I looked straight into his eyes. If I don't act, I'll be the one dragged down with him. He nodded slowly. That evening I called Ramirez, an old friend from college, now a financial crimes detective at the Raleigh Police Department. She once joked with me, if you ever need to crack open your husband's accounts, just call me. I gave a tired laugh when she picked up. Jules, that joke from back then, it's real now. She was quiet for a few seconds, then gently said, talk to me, I'm listening. I told her everything, no filters. Every email, every wire transfer, every plan Derek made without knowing I had read it all. Ramirez was thoughtful. Layla, this is textbook fraud. If you want to pursue it, I can help, but you'll need solid legal evidence. I replied, I will. I'm already on my way. On Friday morning, I arrived at JFK Airport 3 hours early. The sky was cold and gray, gusts of wind slipping past my heavy coat and chilling my spine. But my mind had never been clearer. I had printed everything, divorce papers, financial evidence, Derek's board resignation letter, and a legal summary from Teresa outlining exactly what consequences he'd face if he refused to cooperate. It was all tucked neatly inside a dark blue envelope, clipped securely inside my handbag. I passed through security and boarded through the business class priority line. Seat 4, center seat. Was ready. I sat down, buckled my seatbelt, and pulled out a disguised recording pen, clipping it inside my coat pocket with the tip pointed to the right. A flight attendant smiled at me. Can I get you anything before takeoff? I glanced up and gave her a subtle smile. Champagne, please. I'm celebrating a new beginning. I took a sip. Lightly sour, cold, fizzy, nothing like the wine I used to share with Derek. Now I was here, alone, fully in control of a chess game he thought he was winning. 10 minutes before cabin doors closed, I saw them board. Derek wore a charcoal blazer, khaki pants, and walked with the same self-assured stride like the world owed him attention. Julia clung to his arm, dressed in a tight red dress, softly curled hair, and a beige Saint Laurent bag. The one I once complimented and he dismissed as a waste of money. I raised my champagne glass, partially covering my face. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I wouldn't allow myself to flinch. They approached row 4. Derek bent down to check the seat numbers, then looked up, and locked eyes with me. He froze like he'd just taken a punch to the chest. His whole body stiffened. Julia hadn't even realized what was happening yet. I placed my glass on the tray and looked up, my voice barely above a whisper. Hello, Derek. He didn't answer. Just opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again like he couldn't find a single word. Julia frowned and turned to me. In an instant, her eyes shifted. I held up my boarding pass. 4C, my seat. Small world, huh? Derek pulled her aside, whispering something urgently. She looked at me, then at him, then yanked her arm away. You've got to be kidding me. We've confirmed everything, the flight attendant interrupted. Please take your seats so we can prepare for departure. With no choice left, they sat down. Julia by the window, Derek in the middle, caught between the woman he was with and the woman he betrayed. I pulled the blue envelope from my bag and placed it gently on Derek's lap. Go ahead, open it. We've got a 7-hour flight, plenty of time for you to read every word. He glanced at it, then at me, trying to read my expression. But I didn't flinch. If you don't sign everything before we land, exactly 24 hours later, 3 emails will be sent. 1 to the company board, 1 to your parents, and 1 to our daughter. Paused, locking eyes with him. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Derek gripped the envelope but didn't open it. Julia leaned forward. Who do you think you're threatening? Derek, what is she talking about? I turned to her, my voice free of bitterness, just cool, calm, and full of a deeper disappointment. You really don't know? He didn't just lie to me, he lied to you too. The money he used for this little Florence trip? He withdrew it illegally from the company's project fund. It's not legal, it's not clean, and it's not safe. Julia's face went pale. She recoiled from Derek like she'd touched fire. Derek whispered. You can't prove that. I opened my phone and launched the email app, showing him the 3 draft messages set to auto-send. I don't need to threaten. I've already prepared everything. You just have to decide. Either sign or let everyone learn the full truth. He looked down at the envelope, then back at me. In there is everything. Your board resignation letter, divorce papers, asset division terms, and the financial report confirmed by Marcus. All signed by my attorney, and if you check your jacket pocket, there's a new pen. A recording pen. My gift to you. Color drained from Derek's face. Julia pulled out her phone, opened her messages, and without saying a word, slid in her earbuds. I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough for both of them to hear clearly. I don't need your redemption. I just need you to stop pretending. He lowered his head, and I saw what I'd been waiting for. A flicker of acknowledgement. No more denial, no more deflection. Just acceptance and defeat. I leaned back in my seat and finished my glass of champagne. The sky outside had turned a deep blue. The flight was just beginning. And so was I. The plane reached cruising altitude. Business class fell into quiet, just the soft rush of wind against the windows, and the faint clink of spoons against glassware. But in seat 4B, Derek Whitman's heart was pounding, his hands trembling as he held the dark blue envelope. I turned to the flight attendant. Could you please bring the passenger in seat 6D up here? She's a notary. We have a scheduled appointment. The attendant looked slightly surprised but nodded politely. Of course I'll notify her. Julia sat frozen, eyes fixed on the envelope as if it contained explosives. Derek exhaled sharply, beads of sweat forming along his hairline despite the cabin's cool air. Layla, why are you doing this? I know I was wrong, but this doesn't have to go public. I looked him square in the eye, my tone calm and level. This isn't about going public, it's about doing what's right. Someone should witness you taking responsibility for once. You thought I came here to beg. No, Derek, I came here to end this. A minute later she arrived. A woman with neatly tied brown hair, wearing a charcoal blazer, carrying a folder and a notary logbook. Is Layla Allen? Yes, these are the documents requiring signature verification. I pulled each form from the envelope and placed them on the fold-down tray table in front of Derek. The divorce agreement, asset division, financial report, board resignation letter, and verification of ownership for Emma's trust account. He stared at them like ashes of the empire he once built. If you don't sign these today, I said softly, this won't stay private. Julia shifted away from the seat, distancing herself from the papers like they might contaminate her. Derek swallowed hard, then reached for the pen I handed him. The one with a discreet built-in recorder. I reminded him, every word you speak, every line you sign, it's all being recorded. Just like you used to say when teaching me chess, always stay one move ahead. He signed. No arguing, no drama. Just a bowed head and one signature after another. As if each one stripped away a layer of the mask he had worn for 15 years. The notary verified each signature, quiet, precise, without a wasted word. When she finished the last stamp, she nodded to me and returned to her seat. I gathered the documents, slipped them carefully into a waterproof case and zipped it shut. I turned to Derek, my voice oddly gentle. You can keep the trip. I've changed my ticket. I'm flying home tomorrow morning. This is my parting gift." He furrowed his brow, eyes locked on my face. "You're not staying in Florence?" I smiled. "With who? The man who used my money to bring someone else to what was once our place?" I turned to Julia. "Enjoy the trip if you still feel like going." Julia said nothing. She pulled out her phone, switched it to airplane mode and leaned back, eyes dazed, as if she were slowly waking from a fog. "Layla," Derek spoke again, this time quieter, like a whisper into a void. "I did love you, that never changed." I didn't respond, because those words should have been spoken 18 months ago, before the secret bank accounts, before the plane tickets with someone who wasn't me. I leaned into the seat, staring out the small oval window. The sky was sapphire blue, clouds drifted below the wings, the ocean stretched out beneath us. Ahead was Florence. Behind me was the truth. And in this space between, I wasn't trapped anymore. When the flight attendant returned, I said softly, "More glass, please." "Same. Champagne." "Yes, of course. Celebrating something?" He nodded, staring straight ahead. "Yes, the best reason there is." We landed in Florence just after 9 a.m. local time. I exited first, carrying a handbag filled with signed and certified documents. Derek and Julia followed behind. No hand-holding, no whispers. I didn't look back, but I knew their game ended the moment he signed. I hailed a private taxi straight to a hotel near the airport. Not the expensive Les Sireneuse they'd reserved. I only needed one quiet night to scan and upload the documents to my lawyer, confirm my new bank account had received the asset transfer, and formally close the case file. The next morning, I left Florence. Derek didn't. According to Teresa, Julia left him right there in the terminal at Charles de Gaulle Airport, not a word of goodbye, just 4 parting words. "I'm not part of this." She booked an urgent flight back to New York that same night. As for Derek, from what I heard, he returned to the U.S. shortly afterward, and lost his position at the company just 10 days later, after the board unanimously requested his resignation, and launched a full audit of past operations. His reputation didn't collapse because of a public scandal, but through a silent unraveling. No one stood up for him, no one wanted to be associated with an executive accused of internal financial misconduct. Though not criminally charged, his name no longer carried any weight in the industry. 3 months later, Derek moved to Arizona to live with a cousin who ran a small accounting firm in Flagstaff. From a man who once managed a company of over 80 employees, he now sat behind an old wooden desk, logging payroll and reviewing invoices for a truck parts supply shop. And me? I retained 40% ownership of the company. The remaining shares were redistributed under a senior leadership transition clause. I didn't return to manage it, but I appointed Marcus as the new CFO, and the profits became a steady source of income for me and my daughter. I sold the house in Cary, once our family home, which had become more of a museum of grief, filled with framed photos and a kitchen that no longer echoed with laughter. I moved to Asheville, rented a 2-bedroom apartment with a balcony overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains, just enough space to brew coffee every morning and watch the mist lift off the hills. I wasn't in a hurry to start something new. No one rushes after an earthquake like that. Then one day, Emma knocked on the door. She stood there in a gray sweater, bare-faced, holding a paper bag with the logo of the bakery we used to visit together. She went still as I opened the door. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. Emma walked in, placed the bag on the table and pulled a USB drive from her coat pocket. "I was at Dad's house last week. He left his computer unlocked. I saw everything." I didn't ask what she saw, I just nodded. "I was mad at you. For being quiet, for not fighting, for not explaining. But now I understand. How much you held back just to protect me." We sat together for hours. No screaming, no need to say it all. Just being there was enough. And when Emma gently took my hand, I knew I had regained not only my freedom but also the trust of the daughter I had always tried to protect. That evening, I opened my laptop and typed the first lines of a new project. Financial recovery consulting after divorce for women. Not to make money, but to give back what I once lost: agency, control, and self-worth. I used to believe marriage was the reward, but it wasn't. Peace after the wreckage. That's the real reward. and I'll never let anyone take it from me again. 1 year later, I am sitting at a small cafe by the Arno River in Florence. The city that once marked the end of a marriage, now marking the beginning of something else. The early spring air is crisp. A breeze drifts in from Santa Croce Square, carrying the scent of toasted bread and the sound of a violinist playing on the corner. I sip my cappuccino, notebook in hand, sketching out my next lesson for the Building Financial Freedom After Divorce course. The fourth one in just 6 months. I launched Reclaim Her last October, starting in a tiny office above a bookstore in Asheville. I didn't expect personal consultations to fill up so fast. Emails now come in daily from women across the country. Women once silenced in unfair marriages or stripped of their autonomy in their own homes. They didn't need me to save them. They just needed a map. The one I had to draw myself, with tears, silence, and relentless will. And now, I'm sitting in the very place that was once my private battleground. Without bitterness, without triumph. Only the quiet clarity of someone who stepped out of the invisible cage built by others. My phone chimed. A message from Emma. Almost there. Are you still at the same cafe? I smiled, looked up and saw her walking down the street, holding a bouquet of white tulips and a backpack speckled with watercolor stains. Emma is now studying gender and social culture at the University of Bologna through an exchange program. She says someday she wants to combine academia with outreach, helping single mothers access education and financial resources. When I heard that, all I could do was grip her hand, speechless. Because I knew she had chosen her path by looking at the cracks in my heart and turning them into someone else's escape route. Emma reached the table, cheeks pink from the cold, and took the seat across from me. What are you writing, Mom? Intro for the new course. How are you going to start it? I paused, then wrote the first sentence in my notebook. We don't need revenge to be seen. We just need to step out of what once held us and not look back. She read it, then nodded. Strong and very you. I didn't deny it. Because it was true. I didn't need dramatic vengeance. I just needed my daughter's gaze to carry the trust I once thought I'd lost. We ordered food and talked until the streetlights reflected off the river's shimmering surface. Then Emma said, You know, Mom, I used to think you were the most passive person I'd ever met. Now I think you're the bravest. I laughed. Bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you keep walking even when your hands are still shaking. She smiled, then reached for my hand, the way she used to when she got a bad grade or had a fight with a friend. In that moment, I understood something. My victory wasn't in court, or in the asset agreements or the financial documents. True victory was realizing I no longer needed permission to live as my full self. Freedom doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes as a quiet exhale when you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. We stood and left the cafe as night fully settled in. Florence still shimmered like the first time I visited with Derek, but now, I wasn't walking beside someone in search of feeling enough. I was walking with myself, with a healed heart, and a daughter who understood that the strongest woman is the one who knows when to walk away. Layla's story isn't just about leaving a broken marriage. It's a clear reminder that when pushed to the edge, women can rise and rebuild their lives with both strength and serenity. In today's world, more and more women are learning to let go of what wounds them, not for revenge, but to reclaim their freedom, their worth, and the voice that was once buried. Living true to yourself isn't selfish. It's the first step to healing. What do you think about Layla's choice? Would you have done the same in her place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about family and life.